Recording in progress.
Hey no Prabhu Kota Gela Chaya Thakur Kaha Mora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Swarup Rupa Kaha Chaya Thakur Who brought the treasure of divine love and who is filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Advaita Acharya gone? Where are my Srila Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps.
Hare Krishna. Hello. We're here today to celebrate the wonderful Vaishnava, Mahendra Das. There's beautiful pictures of him up here. He was relating to Srila Prabhupada and many other devotees. Devotees have written in from all over the place, glorifying him, having nice memories of him. And so we're going to read from some of these and other people who want to speak spontaneously. But I think first of all, we should invite Mother Sukhada to come up and give a little talk and overview.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Srivada Askacha Deshatani. All glories to the assembled devotees. After my husband passed away on August 19th, through the tears and the heartache, I came to realize that we were both so blessed by Krishna's mercy. I could see that Krishna was preparing us both for his departure. My husband's health really started to deteriorate this year, and he accepted his conditions with the words, "It is what it is." He never complained about his situation, and Krishna's mercy, he was never in any pain, at least none that he spoke of. I see that Krishna's mercy helped Mahendra to see and talk with family and old friends just a month before his passing. We had a wonderful family reunion just weeks before he passed with all our children and grandchildren, and unbeknownst to us, Krishna was letting him wrap things up in so many ways. When our children heard that their dad was in the hospital, they immediately flew here to be with him in his final days. Although unresponsive at the hospital, he opened his eyes and talked to his children for a couple of hours before he passed away. His last words were to my daughter Janaki. While holding her hand, he said, "Chant to me, sing to me." I had whispered to my husband early on, after he first got admitted to the hospital and he was still unresponsive, I told him, "Remember Gopa Kumar, the beautiful scene," if you remember, must know all the painting of this. The beautiful scene where Gopa Kumar and Krishna meet and embrace in Goloka. So beautiful, and I wanted my husband to remember our reading the story from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Gopakumar says, "Then from a distance I saw him, his charming flute in hand. Running quickly, he emerged from his friends and animals and approached me, saying in a sweet voice, 'Look, Sridham, here's my friend, Sarupa, Gopakumar, the sun who shines on the lotus of your family.' That best of lords took my hand in his own left lotus hand, and received me as a long-lost bosom friend. 'Mahendra,' I said, 'remember this story when Gopakumar meets Krishna. Krishna is waiting for you.' The last thing I want to say that I feel is important was I never heard Mahendra criticize devotees. We so often look for the faults, we forget how much service a devotee does or has done. We all have some faults, but focus on the good things about a devotee. Always be kind and generous with your words of praise and encouragement. Thank you.
Dhruva Maharaj, would you like to come up?
Hare Krsna. We traveled this summer just after finishing Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Jaiva Dharma, and the Embankment of Separation. Unfortunately, upon our return, both Sama and I contracted COVID, so she's not able to come today because she got it after me and is still in her 5th day of contagious condition, but she wrote this. Dearest Mahendra, please forgive me for not being present on this sacred occasion, but I am certainly there in heart. The last time I saw Mahendra and Sukhada was in Los Angeles about 40 years ago, when he worked for the BBT while I distributed Srila Prabhupada's books in the airport. Then a couple of years ago, they appeared here, forerunners of the exodus of devotees converging on Alachua from California. Kind, respectful, lovable, non-judgmental, wise, sincere Mahendraji. We were most fortunate to sit with you together along with other exalted devotees reading transcendental literature twice a week for the last 2 years. In this circle, you were a pillar, and your humble service attitude set the mood of sharing the nectar together. This also includes the sweet rice you made and distributed with a proud yet humble air. Thank you for all this. We had just completed reading the journey of Gopakumar returning to the spiritual world. And as you were on your way, your devoted, sweeter than sweet wife Sukhada constantly reminded you, remember Gopakumar, remember Gopakumar. How glorious is this? You are a Prabhupada man, and now along with other precious God brothers and God sisters, you have cleared the path for the rest of us to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Thank you, dear Mahendraji Prabhu. All glories to your service and faith in our most beloved spiritual master. Hare Krishna. I didn't know Mahendra until those last 2 years of his life. I had never met him prior to his coming here. But when he came here, he and Sukhada bought the house next to Radha and Manmohini in Alachua forest. And at that time, Gaur Sundar was heading towards his later days, and Gaia arranged that they would have meetings and meetings of the Jaiva Dharma by Bhaktivedanta Swami at her house. And I think around that same time, we started a reading of Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Srila Sanatana Goswami. So twice a week, we would all gather, about 10 to 14 of us, all Prabhupada disciples, at least in the Brihad gathering. And we would read for an hour, going around the room, and then naturally have a little prasadam afterwards and sit and discuss those topics as well as our lives and everything like that. And in this way, I got to really know Mahendra from that point of view. That's my relationship. I know all of you have known him for a long time from other parts of his life. But those last 2 years, and those 2 times a week, every single week, except when he had his heart attack, heart operation, for a few weeks we postponed the meetings, but as soon as he was out of the hospital and ready to sit down again, he was ready and enthusiastic to hear and chant these topics. In my own reflections, understanding our philosophy of how we come into this body, spend our time in it, identifying with everything that goes on with it, but simultaneously coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada, his disciples, his movement, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and the other part that goes on underneath in the subconscious spiritual mind of the soul. I wanted to reflect and share with you just the last chapter titles of what we were studying, so you can understand a little bit about where Mahendra's consciousness was evolving toward the end of his life. The first are the last several chapters of Bhaktivedanta Thakur's Jivadharma. Interestingly enough, both books include the main characters going through the sojourn of attaining their siddhadeha, their eternal spiritual identity. So both of these chapter titles from the books kind of reveal how that took place with those characters, and all of us were reading those pastimes along with that. So chapter 30 from Jivadharma is Rasa Tattva, Anubhavas in Vatsalya and Madhurya Rasa. Chapter 31, Madhurya Rasa, Krishna's Svarup, the Nayaka, and the Svakya Nayikas. 32, Madhurya Rasa, Parakya Nayikas. 33, Madhurya Rasa, Sri Radha's Svarup. 34, 5 types of Sakis and messengers. 35, Udipan. 36, Sthayi Bhava and stages of Rati. 37, Shringara Rasa. And we read that Shringara Rasa is a more condensed and sweet version of Madhurya Rasa. Shringara, Svarup, and Vipralamba. 38, Shringara Rasa, Mukhya Sambhoga, and Astakaliya Leela. 39, entering the Leela. And 40, attaining Prema, the supreme wealth. This whole section was a conversation between the main character who's advancing, Vijay Kumar, and those last chapters were Gopal Guru Goswami at the Radhakanta Math in Puri, instructing him specifically in Madhurya Rasa, which he had revealed he had an attraction for. And the other book, of course, was Sanatana Goswami's description of Kumar. And here's a description, as Sukhada alluded to, with that famous painting where Krishna comes up and hugs Gopakumar when he finally attained Goloka. That's from chapter 35, Abhista Labha, the attainment of desires. Meeting Madan Gopal. We may think that's the end. That was the beginning of his pastimes, an intimate, developing relationship. Meeting Krishna and Balaram, lunch with the family. What happened was that when after the hug, and after Krishna had come back, he was coming back with all his cowherd boyfriends, and Gopakumar had come to Nandagram and he was asking everybody, where is Krishna, where is Krishna? And everybody was just running out to the gates of the city, waiting because they could hear the sound of all those millions of cows and the cowherd boys and the dust raising and the clanging of bells and flutes and different things. So everybody went out to meet him, and then there was the big hug. And then Krishna was so pleased. If you remember, he fell on the ground. He was rolling in the ground with tears, muddying the ground. And he invited Gopakumar back to the village, back to Nandagram, back to Nanda's house. So bedtime pastimes, next morning pastimes, the glory of Goloka. Now this was interesting. Kaliya Damana, Keshi and Arista, and Akrura arrives. Akrura drives away. Krishna remains in Mathura. And then the final chapter of that, the final section of that chapter is called Nitya Leela, which means that it kept on repeating over and over and over again. It goes on even in Goloka Vrindavana. So, again, from my point of view, knowing a soul that had spent his last years so absorbed in these wonderful topics, I obeisance to him. Vanchakalpatubhescha kripasindhubhyavicha patitanam pavnabhyo vaishnavadevim Mahendra Jaji Prabhu ki jai.
Janaki, would you like to read?
I did not write my own writing. I don't think I could make it through it. But for those that don't know me, I'm Janaki. I'm one of Mahendra's daughters. And we've had so many wonderful people send so many letters and memories. And so I'm going to read one of them, who comes from one of my favorite people, Sachi Devi. She was one of my ashram teachers, so she knows how much I love her. So this is from Sachi. First and foremost, Mahendra was a Prabhupada man all the way. From his long-term service to the BBT, to his infectious and keen enthusiasm to read, discuss, and understand Srila Prabhupada's books. After meeting their family in New Dwarka in the early 70s, and throughout that decade, I came to know him more and more in the following decades in Three Rivers, after about 1981. Mahendra was asked to find a suitable country property to relocate the Gurukula from Los Angeles to a Sattvic environment. This he accomplished, and 350 plus acres of ideal, pristine acreage was purchased with many amenities to accommodate the school. I remember being so impressed with this thoroughness and making sure the area was not on the San Andreas Fault, which if anyone wants to know, funny story, ask me afterwards, because I was terrified of earthquakes. In the years prior to he and Sukhada moving to New Ramanreti, they regularly opened their home to our small community of devotees. The kirtans led by Ramdas, delving into the books amongst 12 to 15 sweet devotees, and then tasting Sukhada's excellent milk sweets made for memorable, blissful times. During those philosophical studies, I was very struck by Mahendra's deep intelligence, recall, and profound understanding. Mahendra was very talented in many ways. He was a great cook. He could create a beautiful landscape around his home of fruit trees, flowering bushes, lawns, and a neat, productive organic garden. I'm quite sure he had many other skills I'm not aware of. In our Krishna conscious movement, Mahendra and Sukhada were one of our stalwart householder couples, a marriage that lasted 50 years. They were exemplary and in a way unique. This was so important to our beloved Srila Prabhupada. He was sort of a big brother to me, as I sometimes needed some reliable advice on practical matters, of which he was very knowledgeable. Also, he was sort of an uncle to my kids, as we spent many, many holidays taking Thanksgiving prasad in our beautiful home on the river, truly feeling welcomed at every visit. I have the utmost respect and admiration for Mahendra Prabhu and his better half, Sukhada. I have referred to him in the past tense, but we know from our teachings that sans the body, the mind, the intelligence, and ego accompany the soul to the next destination. So in my mind, Mahendra Prabhu is very much still a Prabhupada man, destined to continue his journey back to Godhead at the lotus feet of our eternal Father. Mahendra Prabhu, in case you are listening, you have left us bereft of your wonderful association, but also with so much to draw upon for comfort. Hare Krishna, your eternal God sister, Sachi Devi Dasi.
I was lucky enough to have known Mahendra for 50 years and to have been a friend of his for that amount of time. We lived in Three Rivers, in Los Angeles, in Visalia, and we were always welcome. We traveled together. I was so lucky, really, to be his friend and associate in Krishna consciousness. And I think he really helped me to stay on the path. I think, I was in the hospital here in Gainesville with pneumonia, and just a few days ago, and I was talking to my son about that, and he said, "You guys are really brothers in arms." And because he was in the hospital too and passed away from pneumonia, and so we're still sharing a lot. It's an honor. It's definitely an honor. So thank you very much for listening. All glories to Mahendra Prabhu and Srila Prabhupada.
I have in front of me a short few words from Shrutakirti Das. I also have a few words of my own, but I'll begin by reading the statement made by Shrutakirti. Mahendra Prabhu has always been a Prabhupada man and a big brother to me. Just like Srila Prabhupada was our father, Mahendra was someone I looked upon in so many ways. Your leaving us has left us another reason for our sadness in this world. He was an ISKCON commander who was fortunate to get to spend some years in New Dwarka in the 70s and early 80s. I can't think of anyone that was more equipoised. I never saw him lose control. Never saw him become angry or affected by the modes, no matter the situation. He was dedicated to our spiritual master, helping to see that his books were distributed all over the world. He was so easy to talk to and made me feel like I was doing something important for Srila Prabhupada. I got to know him more and more when I was the temple president in Hawaii. He would regularly check with me to encourage us to distribute books and then see that we paid our bill. It was around 1979 when I moved to LA that I got to know him better. We became good friends. He was never judgmental and always made me feel like my service was of value. It wasn't so easy in the early 80s for many of us, but he continued on doing his service despite so many obstacles. Working under Rameswara Prabhu, he was able to smooth the rough seas that were all around us. I can't ever remember him being critical of anyone, which was a great accomplishment at that time. He was dedicated in his service, seeing that Prabhupada's books were continually going out. Mahendra gave many of us an outlet for the frustration that could have been there. I have always felt peaceful in his presence. Despite my leaving LA in 1983, I always felt the closeness to him, which continued through the years. After his moving to Northern California, I would hear of the discussion groups he was involved in, going deeper into Srila Prabhupada's books. I was happy knowing how steadfast he was in his dedication to Srila Prabhupada. After many years apart, we again came together in Hawaii. Mahendra and Sukhada had come to help us there. We had all tried to make the arrangement so that they could spend as much time as possible knowing the value of such wonderful association. I was very happy later when I heard that they moved to the Alachua community. Of course, he was famous for arranging the charter flights to India for the festival. It was just another way he served so many. Perhaps he is most famous for that, but he did so much more in his life. He was an idyllic disciple, husband and loving father, and a great example for us all. I'm happy to know he has rejoined Srila Prabhupada's traveling Sankirtana party, and I pray someday soon I may also be part of it. His leaving is a great loss for all of us, but certainly he has been rewarded for his dedication in serving the orders of his spiritual master. I pray that he always remembers me and continues to give me the guidance by his example. A friend, a servant and friend always, Srila Das. That's a very nice... I had the good fortune of being in the same subdivision when he moved here to Alachua, which is the first I met him. He moved into the Alachua Forest subdivision before he moved to Turtle Creek, and he was there for some time. And also, I had the good fortune to invite him to our men's group, which he readily accepted. And he went on to have the meetings in his house. He was such a generous and giving and inclusive soul. So I didn't know him as well as so many of you folks here knew him, but what short time I spent with him, I was completely impressed by his devotion to study, to Prabhupada's books, to his humble and warm ways, and he's always will remain a close friend to me. So I thank you for letting me say a few words. Hare Krishna. Jaya, Mahendra Prabhu.
So we're going to try to do a Zoom. Mother Mamata is
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me? Okay. Hare Krishna. I'm Jambavan wife, and I'm going to read what Jambavan wrote. He worked with Mahendra at the BBT. So this is Jambavan speaking, so I'll say I, but it's Jambavan. I served at the BBT for about 10 years. I was part of the BBT truck run that delivered books to many temples all over the United States, and later worked in the BBT warehouse under Mahendra Prabhu. Mahendra was in charge of the BBT warehouse operations and truck run and many other things at the time. He put this truck run together that delivered books all over the United States, and he coordinated the deliveries to the temples of Prabhupada's books with the drivers, the temples, picking up books from the printers in 3 different places in the United States: Kingsport, Tennessee, Plymouth, Massachusetts, and Buffalo, New York. So there were a number of drivers over the years serving under Mahendra. And some of the drivers were Kadamba Kanana, Karandar, Bir Raghava, Yagya Prabhokta, Shruta Shrava, and Jambavan. And all the drivers liked Mahendra. In fact, I never heard anyone say they didn't like Mahendra. The truck run was a big adventure, and we drove year-round in all kinds of weather, got stuck in snowstorms, drove through the desert, and heavy thunderstorms. We went to many of the North American temples delivering Srila Prabhupada's books and got to see the different deities, devotees, took prasadam at all those temples. And the arrival of the BBT truck at these temples always inspired the devotees, and they were happy to help us unload the books. The devotees would then load us up with prasadam before we left. And Mahendra was the brain and the organizer behind this whole operation. And I want to especially mention the St. Louis temple, because Suradas was the temple president during that time, and he was a big book distributor. So all the big guns of book distribution were there: Pragosh, Vaishesika, Mahamuni, Ruchi, to name a few. At the end of our deliveries at all the temples, Mahendra would send us back to the printers with an empty truck to pick up an entire load of books just for St. Louis. That amounted to 1,140 cartons of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is 41,500 pounds of books. We would set up a time with Sura, and he would keep the entire temple back to help unload the books. While we were unloading the books, Chota Haridas was in the kitchen cooking breakfast prasadam. And after unloading, we would all take prasadam together. And then the Sankirtana men would leave for the airport, and we'd be on our way. Just telling you this to give you a little flavor of what was going on back then. I want to tell a quick story of how Mahendra helped me in 1979 in a situation I was in. I had taken a break from the BBT and gone to New Vrindavan, but I was very unhappy there. So Mahendra sent Rasivilas to rescue me with the BBT truck. I snuck out at 2 in the morning in a snowstorm. I still remember seeing the headlights of that big BBT truck in the snow coming to get me. I was so relieved to get back to the BBT. When Bhiraghava moved on from the warehouse, Mahendra asked me to be the warehouseman. I didn't have much confidence in myself that I could run the warehouse, but Mahendra had full faith in me. I would meet him every morning to get the orders, and you had to get there early to Mahendra's office because later in the morning, it was like Grand Central Station. There was so much going on, including some international shipments of books. Once a ship with a sea container of books sank in a storm in the Atlantic Ocean on the way to Sierra Leone. So the order had to be placed again. So Prabhupada's books are even at the bottom of the ocean. Mahendra was the one who dealt with situations like that. And so, of course, it was fully insured. Mahendra oversaw a lot of different areas of the BBT, working closely with Rameshwara. Mahendra was always very easy to get along with and didn't try to micromanage those he worked with, which was rare in those days. I always enjoyed working with Mahendra and always considered myself very fortunate to serve with him at the BBT. He was the best boss I ever had, inside or outside of ISKCON. Mahendra was very dedicated to his service. He was willing to take on tremendous responsibilities for Srila Prabhupada. His service position was unique in ISKCON, but he never thought of himself as a big devotee. No one else did what Mahendra did. He will be sorely missed by his family and many friends. Srila Prabhupada has called him to some bigger service. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mahendra. Sarup.
Hare Krishna, Mount Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prasad, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami. Stay Saraswati Devi, Gordvana, Patrani, Nirvishesha, Siddhasvarupa, Sukhada, Deshatana. Some of these stories, well, when I first met Mahendra, I told yesterday. So Sukhada, Janaki, I'm sorry, these are going to be repeats from yesterday when we got together. First time I saw Mahendra was in the basement of the Brooklyn Temple. It was shortly after this, the Siddhasvarupa joined ISKCON with his merry band of Hawaii surfer boys and girls. And for some reason or other, all those followers of his became dispersed throughout the network of ISKCON centers, and several of them came to New York. I mean, what a change that must have been from Hawaii to Brooklyn. So at the time, I think it was either 1970 or 71, ISKCON Press was in Boston.
where I was, and I would go back and forth from Boston to New York. So on one of my trips to Brooklyn, that was, like I say, was shortly after the Siddhasvarupa people came. I ran into some of them. In fact, the first person I saw was that Brahmamuhurta, Vice Minister husband. And then, they were all blonde and beautiful and large. And then I saw Brahmamuhurta, actually. I asked him his name, and he said Narada Muni. They all had different names, so they had given these names. Then they got reinitiated by Srila Prabhupada. So before Brahmamuhurta, said, my name is Narada Muni. And he was sweeping the floor, and he said, but you can call me Narada Broomy, with a little smile on his face. Next person I saw was Mahendra. I said, and who are you? Which demigod are you from a heavenly planet that descended upon us here in Brooklyn? He said, my name is Brahmachari Bill. They call me Brahmachari Bill. And he had a clipboard, and they said, oh, they already gave you some responsibility. He said, yeah, he was like the temple commander at the time. As a matter of fact, during that time, or later on, not that much later, ISKCON Press moved back to New York, and we were all in Brooklyn. And an article was written in a New York magazine. Basically, it's centered around my wedding with Conca. But the author actually lived with the devotees. His name was Richard Levine, I think it was. And for about 2 or 3 weeks, he got to know all of us, and he would interview different devotees in the temple. And so he wrote this article, but I want to read the section about Mahendra. And I had it printed out. So check this out. So he writes, he meets Bill, Brahmachari Bill Mahendra. Bill was explaining to a middle-aged lady in purple pedal pushers that no, he didn't expect her to join the temple and start wearing a sari at this stage in her life, just to change the consciousness behind her normal activities. Bill practiced what he preached. He was in charge of temple maintenance and carried around a notepad with reminders like buy less toil and fix upstairs sink, interspersed with his own spiritual jottings, such as today or tomorrow I shall die. Or the living entity in illusion thinks he is the doer. The lady listened to him impatiently and then excused herself by saying, I'll be back. Yeah, she'll be back, Bill said. In 50 lifetimes, she'll be back after she gets kicked some more. So that was Brahmachari Bill, who later became Mahendra. And so fast forward the tape, then, in LA, which back in the early 70s was a mecca for householders, everybody, move out there. And that's when I ran into Mahendra again. We weren't very close throughout those years in Los Angeles, but we both worked for the BBT. And now I remember his office, the BBT warehouse at one point was on 8500 Higuera Street. Anyway, our warehouse. So if you go into this warehouse, there was a step, the downstairs was the warehouse itself with loading docks where John Bhavan was talking about all the BBT truck would pull up coming from Kingsport, Tennessee and loading up and upstairs were the offices. So if you walk up the steps to the right, there was the BBT mail order division. That was my gig. Ranadir's office, Kirti Raj had an office, and it was wild. We were just crazy. We were very frivolous, but we got things done, BTG subscription service, and I had my membership program, and all this was going on. Now, if you go to the left, that's where Mahendra's office was, and it was very professional and quiet. Like when I go over there, I would tiptoe around because Mahendra had this bearing of professionalism. He would come to work with a briefcase and go behind his desk and do what he was doing. And I never knew exactly what he was doing, but I knew it was very important because he was so serious. Then I realized he was running all the shipping and what I used to do when it was very small. And he was also known as ISKCON's travel agent. In those days when we were doing our trips to Mayapur for Gaur Purnima, he said, you want a ticket? Go see Mahendra. And he would set it up. In fact, that one Gaur Purnima, he actually organized a 747. It was all devotees. It was an all devotee flight. Only the stewardesses and the pilots were non-ISKCON. We took over the whole entire airplane, and that was his doing. So, like I said, we weren't very close friends, which was good for him because I was very frivolous those days. But years later, I guess the next time when did I visit you guys when you were in Exeter? It was about 6-7 years ago. Whenever, yeah, my wife and I went up to Three Rivers to see some old friends, and on our way home, we said, well, we got to stop in Visalia to see Ranadir and Kadamba, and we got to stop and see Mahendra and Sukhada in Exeter. So it was like the night we were leaving, and you guys had just come back from India, just come back from that trip to India. And we just sat in the living room. Mahendra just was talking about that trip to India in detail, and he could tell stories in detail. And I just sat there amazed because apparently that trip to India really enthused and inspired him. And his telling about that trip enthused and inspired me. I mean, I felt like going home and getting myself a ticket and going. And he was everywhere. You guys were in South India, here, there. You had a tour guide. And he was just talking about all the things you guys did and saw. So, Mahendra could spin a great yarn and tell a great story. And, other than that, over the years, my only connection with him really was through social media, Facebook. But, whenever I saw that Mahendra left a message, a comment, I would get excited because whatever he would say would be very profound, very on point, very relevant, and very intelligent. So I really like that. Oh, going back to the first time I met Mahendra as Brahmachari Bill. I said, I mentioned that, you and all the others that came to Siddha, you're all just so demigod looking and beautiful. And I said, but you have this Teutonic look about you. And he said, and then he gave me the whole history of his name and Wilhelm and his connection with Kaiser Wilhelm. And boy, did I hear a miracle of that. Mahendra is an amazing, amazing person. Always, and I'll miss him. I'll miss his, I made my plans to come out here. Well, I saw you. I saw you at Rath Yatra last month, and I said Mahendra was there, but he didn't come to Rath Yatra, so I was hoping to see him on my trip out here. Only to find out that here I am at his memorial. So we never know from day to day what's going to happen. So Jai, all glories to Mahendra and his service, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krsna.
Thank you, Sri. We're going to have a Zoom of Brahmamuhurta.
Hare Krishna. All respects to all, and especially respects to dear Mahendra. I, like many of you, knew Mahendra in a bifurcated state. I knew him in LA and then again here, and not in between because I've always been an East Coast devotee. When Mahendra was had the administrator at the BBT, he was unusual. He was kind, effective, focused, and non-political. That is unusual. Quite so. And when I was vice president of a temple at a time, and books were always an issue, and he was so easy to work with, so easy to plan. And when he planned his truck routes, they worked so well, picking up books from a printer, coming back. The trips to India kind of worked well, except for that one flight in which the devotees brought so much luggage. The plane almost didn't make it off the runway. We can't blame Mahendra for that. The airline should have known better. But he was so good at organizing it that somehow the plane could be overloaded. Then Mahendra moved back here. And when he did, I was very interested reconnecting with him because he was such a gentleman. And I'm running the Bhaktivedanta Institute, and he was very interested in our intellectual endeavors. And we started speaking more and more. Then I had one conversation with him that really impacted me deeply. There was some incidences years ago in which I think Mahendra was mistreated. And having done ISKCON Resolve for 20 years, I see a lot of this, of course. And somehow it came up in a conversation. And Mahendra's attitude was, so it didn't matter. It just didn't matter. So I understood that in his heart, there just wasn't envy. Because most people kind of vent and, yeah, I got over it. But Mahendra just didn't exhibit that envy, which I probably would have exhibited. He would advise me a lot. We're doing construction at the BI, still doing it, and he would advise me a lot on matters. Then I started losing touch with him, and I reached out, and there were two things happening. And I understand they were very transformative. One, he had health issues were coming up, and he was limited in what he could do. Appreciate that. Second, he was going very internal. And it revealed to me how important his book clubs were and his readings. And he was going very, very internal. And I said, what a nice example. I didn't understand that maybe deep down he understood this is what you do at the end of life. I don't know that. Maybe others do. But for me, it was that lesson that this is what we do at the end of life. We had a similar example when a wonderful Param Brahma was with us. And the temple that many of you are sitting in now was designed and built by him. And then at the end of after he built it, he went into deep meditation. He says, I have to catch up on books and chanting. And then one night, he didn't wake up. And next morning, his wife found him with his hands in his japa bag. And I understood that he understood it was time to do what we do at the end of our lives. And Mahendra has also, many of us are aging out. As Borajan said, we have begun the decade of tears. That Mahendra, personally for me, has given me great inspiration of how to be serious. We never know when our sojourn here is up, but Mahendra knew it was time to be serious. So we do wonder why Krishna sometimes takes the best of our people away. And the only explanation I heard that gives me any solace is Prabhupada needed his best men elsewhere. And I think that surely applies to wonderful Mahendra. Jai Mahendra. All glories to Prabhupada.
If someone else wants to speak before me too, that may be helpful. I don't know if anyone else. I mean, okay, I'll try to pull it together. Dear Mahendra Prabhu, I still can't believe I won't be seeing you again in the form I knew you. I'm so grateful for your care and character. Truly, you and Mother Sukhada gave me a sense of family, a sense of love, and a shelter that no one else has. I am so grateful you were in our lives and in my son's life. I always felt that you were even closer than an aunt and uncle, more like two very dear, incredible confidants, advisors, and examples of how I want to live in this world. You saw the material reality and didn't let it faze you or bring you down, but rather carved out your place in this world, while your priorities were not only spiritual life, but also care and respect to the souls in your life. I have so many fond memories of even when you made fun of my naive questions. Yeah, truly, it's like one of my favorite memories. I loved hearing your views, and I'm still so grateful for the times I could be candid and gain a true, deep, clear, spiritual response. Thank you for your sense of humor and your genuine care in our lives. Thank you for always being wise and candid, a quality I so deeply appreciate. Thank you for showing me how a husband and a wife can serve together, serve each other, can deeply accept and honor each other. My only regret is that I didn't visit more often. I pray I gain your association in the spiritual realm one day. Thank you, your dear friend, well-wisher, and bereft, Hare Krsna.
Amahar.
Hare Krishna. Of course, first I want to offer my most sincere condolences to Sukhada and Janaki and the family. And I don't know why I should have reached out more, and I apologize for that. I didn't know what to do, really. I think it's one of those where I didn't want to intrude on your family. But anyway, I thought about Mahendra every day since then, and somehow it really affected me. It's not that we were super close, but we know each other for 40 years, and over time. So things make sense. And I also want to. It's so nice to see Radha Prabhu and Sarup Prabhu, and we have kind of the LA BBT Bhaktivedanta Village Three Rivers gang back here. It's kind of nice, and also to see Janaki. I've probably been seeing you for like 30 years or something. So it's I guess we try to look for little things that may give us a little bit of solace, or there's some meaning or hope or something that's a little bit positive, at least that we're getting together with an opportunity to glorify Mahendra Prabhu and his life, because he was an extraordinary person. And as all the speakers have been speaking, I kept thinking, oh yeah, I should have written that down. I should have thought of that, because they were all true. I just have to say, everything I've heard today was absolutely true. There was no exaggeration in any of the glorifications people have given of Mahendra Prabhu. I was thinking that there's a military award they often give, and they give it for going above and beyond the call of duty, right? It's some military award. And that's how I thought about Mahendra. He was someone who was always going above and beyond the call of duty. Not just, doing what you had to do, doing your duty, doing what some authority told you, but really, really taking devotional service seriously and doing things no one asked him to do, or doing things much better than he was even expected to do. And so it's really wonderful. And mostly I'm going to talk about, of course, California, which is when he had the most relationship together. But his last 2 years here in Alachua, I thought were also extraordinary. I feel bad I didn't have the opportunity to be in some of those reading groups, which just sound like they were incredible and wonderful. But from the times when I would talk to Mahendra at the Sunday feast and like that, I could see that. I could see, a lot of times we say people come to Alachua to retire. You didn't come here to retire. You came to finish your spiritual life, to become advanced in Krishna consciousness, to make the final journey. I really feel that Mahendra was on that final journey, and you all spoke so nicely about it, those of you that were there with him. And I'm sure just as Gopal Kumar was, he was met by Krishna or Prabhupada or so we don't know. And I hate to speculate, but we know it could have only been a wonderful next opportunity for him. I had moved to Los Angeles about 1979 and was there through the 80s, and I was there with the BBT, with Mahendra and Ranadev and Sarup and some others here. And then we went up to Bhaktivedanta Village, the Three Rivers. I was in charge there as the president of the Three Rivers Gurukula community. And it was interesting because, first of all, people mentioned about with Mahendra's work at the BBT. And by the way, Sarup talked about the offices when you came up, and the professionalism of Mahendra was over on the left side. Now before I went to BV, I was took over as the director or whatever we were, the head of the order department. I didn't think it was as wild as you were acting like, Sarup. We weren't that unruly. Come on. Okay, but anyway, we worked right down the hall from each other. And as some people said, they weren't quite sure what Mahendra did, but they knew he really did a lot, and he did. I think his job title was running the book distribution in the warehouse, but he did so much more. Everyone knew he was Rameshwar's right-hand man, right? I mean, he was always behind the scenes, always helping out, working things out financially. Tremendous manager, strong personality, as everyone said, but very calm, very unassuming. He didn't get angry. He didn't push himself in a very authoritarian manner, but he got things done. He was effective. I mean, he was highly skilled, and everybody respected him and knew that. And he did it in a very quiet way. And like I said, people didn't often know everything. I'm sure I didn't know everything he did, but we knew that it was happening. And it wasn't just happening. Rameshwar Prabhu was a wonderful devotee and manager, but it wasn't all happening just because of him. It was happening because of people like Mahendra and so many other people that were there also running the BBT. So after a while, then when we went up to Bhaktivedanta Village, Even before the school actually started, they were working out there, and then when I came up to be the temple president, I think it was a little before or just before the school was about to begin, the first thing I remember about Mahendra, very early on, I don't know exactly the time sequence here, but I went up to see him. He was up on a little hill behind the temple and there's this old broken down bulldozer, right? The treads are off of it. Now I'm talking about, what do you think they weigh? 1,000, 2,000 pounds? A bulldozer tread? It's got the tread off. He's got no equipment. He's got nothing. It doesn't run. And within a week, I think he went up there like on his own on the weekends. He worked at BBT during the week, right? He went up there on the weekends. I don't think anybody paid him for any of this. I certainly never gave him anything, from the temple. And he got that thing working. And I don't know how he got the treads on, but he did. But that's just typical. He got things done. He had all kinds of abilities, financial abilities, managerial abilities. We know he had a big construction, company later, successful, running a business, and helping so many people. I just have to say this one thing. People said they never saw him become angry or never. I did see him get angry once. And there was a certain devotee that was working up there. And I have to say, this man was like one of those huge bodybuilders, kind you wouldn't mess with. And he was a bully. He really was. I'm sorry, Prabhu. I hate to criticize devotees, but I have to say that because he was doing something outrageous. And Mahendra stood up to him. And he went toe-to-toe with him till the guy backed down. And we all think, thank you, Mahendra. And I reminded him of that recently, the last few months, and he just acted like, nothing. Like he was almost like he wasn't proud of that, No, that's not his character. He stepped out of his normal personality character to do what had to be done. That's how he was. He was amazing like that. And I don't know anyone who didn't respect him because of that. And we knew he was always working behind the scenes. He found the property up there in Three Rivers. You might have been with him when you found it, right, Manaager? I don't know. Maybe you weren't. But anyway, he found the property. I'm sure he helped finance it, figured all the logistics, the legal things, how to set up the legal structure, got it all going, always helping, getting everything running. And, he was just always, like I said, always coming up, fixing things, bulldozing the roads, because, they washed out during I guess we had a little rainy season. It was pretty dry most of the time. Just almost without even ask. Like I was a temple president. I mean, he didn't even say anything. He was just out there, fixing things, and like, wow, wonderful. I didn't even have to ask him or what to speak of, so it's hard to say enough about him, but he was someone who was very memorable, but it was personal qualities too that stand out. I've heard several people say he was a Prabhupada man. And that's an absolutely apt description. He was a Prabhupada man, he was a BBT man, he was an ISKCON man, he was behind the Gurukula. He was very dedicated to make the things that made Prabhupada happy work better. And take on those projects that we all needed, that were all wanted, that were just so important. And it was hard to find people to get these difficult things done. And he was just always in that mood of being a servant of Prabhupada. And so much help for the school. Of course, his own children were there, and so he was very motivated. But that's to his credit. He was very motivated to find a good place, a nice place in the country, a nice place to live for his children and for all of our children. I was there with my children too. We all wanted something better, and we wanted to offer a good experience. And he was certainly part of that, and no small part of that. And so I always had so much gratitude for that. And my only real I don't regret for Mahendra, because I'm sure he is, as I said, with Krishna or Prabhupada, and he's been successful. But I regret that I didn't spend more time with him in his last year or two, because I realized that something was very special going on internally for him, and making really deep spiritual advancement, and so that's really nice. And I think that that's something we can all take shelter of, that we can, that we can not exactly rejoice, but at least we can feel some comfort, in that Krishna has a plan for all of us, and Krishna obviously wanted to bring Mahendra back at this point. So thank you all so much. All glory to Mahendra Prabhu.
Nalini?
Thank you all for celebrating the life of Mahendraji with his exalted family. I'll be brief. Three things I wanted to mention. One is his book work for the BBT. If, as we all believe, Srila Prabhupada is the savior of the world, the person who is repelling and pushing back Kali Yuga by the distribution of knowledge to everyone, and by establishing temples where kirtan can go on, then how great is the soul of Mahendra? Who is he? That he was given the managerial position of distributing all of Prabhupada's words, which generated income whereby temples could be built and facilitating millions of people's spiritual life. Not that I have the answer, we just should realize how great a soul this person is. Second was, we lived in LA at the same time, and we had a common friend named Bhutatma. And we would talk about our pastimes with Bhutatma. And when Bhutatma passed away a few years ago, Mahendra helped to organize a Zoom session for 25 devotees to remember Bhutatma. So in remembering Mahendra and his devotional service, we're following in his own footsteps of celebrating the glories of Prabhupada's devotees. And third, when Mahendra and Sukhada moved here for all of our benefit, one night he and his wife showed up at our house. We had a Wednesday night reading class at 7 p.m. for the last 25 years or so. And one night they came and everybody was so happy to see him. And at the end, toward about 5 to 8, I saw him rubbing his eye, and I said, we finished, and I said, Mahendra, you're a little tired. And he said, yeah, this was my third class today. He was very eager to hear from Srila Prabhupada. That described in Nectar of Devotion, samutkantya, determined eagerness to achieve Krishna consciousness. So I want to thank him and all of you who are following in Prabhupada and great devotees like Mahendra's footsteps and tasting and spreading love of God all over the world. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Chitra, would you like to come up?
I'm reading a memoir from Mayapura-Vrindavana Das. And he starts, Mahendra Das was not known for book distribution, giving class, or leading robust kirtans. These seem to be the most often cited milestones for accomplishment in our Vaishnava community. Yet Mahendra Prabhu was a great soul who glowed with foundational Vaishnava qualities that are just as important, less acknowledged, and perhaps ever more rarely achieved. He was a man gifted with integrity and competency. He had the unique ability to keep both feet firmly planted on the ground while his consciousness was dedicated to serving Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. He knew how to get things done properly, efficiently, and in a timely manner, which earned him the moniker of expert. In 1976, Mahendra was tasked to arrange for the transport of over 250 devotees on pilgrimage from New York to Calcutta for the largest Gaur Punim festival at that time. Instead of purchasing individual seats, he contracted with the airline company to charter the entire 747 plane at a significant savings. This was a historic event in ISKCON, filled with many memorable moments, like devotees dancing ecstatically at 40,000 feet high during Arti for Radha Damodar. The pilots felt compelled to ask us to settle down for safety reasons. Mahendra's determination is further illustrated by the fact that the runway in Calcutta was just barely long enough to land such a huge, newly commissioned plane. When the jumbo jet did land safely and Calcutta embraced a wave of Hare Krishna white elephants drunk on the holy name, it was heralded as another astonishing success attributed to Srila Prabhupada's long list of extraordinary inspired accomplishments. Mahendra was a man you could depend on, but he was also very humble and was never one to clamor for the spotlight. He did his service quietly and with the impeccable integrity you would expect from a learned Brahmin. He was the one who kept the daily accounts for the BBT, from the infancy and book distribution to the years where there appeared to be no end in sight. In this way, Mahendra was perhaps the biggest book distributor and the loudest play of the Brihat Mridanga. He was the one who arranged for the ongoing shipment of tens of thousands of books from the BBT warehouse to those on the front line in the airports and malls all over the world. Mahendra was easy to talk to, well-informed, humorous, chose his words carefully, and understood the importance of acting responsibly towards his family, his colleagues, and all living entities. He was a pleasure to be around, and the world would be blessed to have more people follow in his footsteps. I will miss him as a devotee, a mentor, and a friend. With fond memories, I lament the loss of this great soul, Mahendra Das, whom I had the privilege to know. Hare Krishna, Jai Jagannath, Maheshwar Das. I have just one comment. When Mahendra and Sukhada first moved into our Alachua forest community there, I'm not a very outgoing person myself. I won't go right up to people and start talking to them. But on the contrary, Mahendra is a little more outgoing, and he saw me walking by chanting japa. He comes right up and starts talking to me, as in what I saw as another devotee, not as a woman chanting japa, and I just noted that. And he was always very friendly and, inclusive of everyone. But anyway, that's the first time I met him.
Sangha? Sangha has a reading.
Hare Krishna. We were in the same men's group together, and he is and was very easy to love, and with such a foundation of friendship and service and Shastra. He will be missed. And we still meet in his home courtesy of Mother Sukhada. This is a offering by Brahmadas when they were in Pittsburgh together. Mahendra Das was vice president of the Pittsburgh temple when I joined there in 1972. I was an inexperienced 19-year-old, and he was a worldly grown-up of 27. So he naturally became my mentor. When Srila Prabhupada came to Pittsburgh that year, Mahendra took the lead in preparing for that visit, which included renovating the temple, which he mostly did himself. He also helped to organize Vishnu Jan Swami's Transcendental Rock Opera performance, wherein Prabhupada spoke at a prestigious concert hall nearby. Later, when winter snows arrived, Mahendra saved us dhoti-clad book distributors from the cold by building a sleeping platform in the temple van and taking us to Florida on traveling Sankirtana. He was a great van leader who was always attentive to our needs. Who knew that in a few years Mahendra would be distributing books as manager of Prabhupada's BBT? Unfortunately, zoning laws forced the closure of the impressive stone Pittsburgh temple that I had joined. In those circumstances, Mahendra was made the new president of a Pittsburgh ISKCON without a temple. Undeterred, he rented a small residential flat for the few devotees that remained, and in Son's temple we preached and distributed books. Months later, Mahendra started a new temple in a fabulous location on the main street between Pittsburgh's two largest universities. He built a beautiful temple room and refurbished a two-story building himself. Then he and I borrowed an extension ladder from my father and painted the building purple with yellow trim so that the thousands of students walking by would take notice, and they did. The temple was a success. Devotees joined, and as leader, Mahendra was always competent, caring, and personal with everyone, particularly my mother, who called often to ask about my welfare. 40 years later, before her death at age 97, my mother asked, "How's Mahendra doing?" I really liked him. He was always nice to talk to. Once I complained to Mahendra saying, "I joined the Krishna movement to find peace of mind, but so far I have found little of that in ashram life." In his wisdom, Mahendra replied to me, citing Bhagavad Gita 7:16 through 17. He said, quote, "Peace of mind is material, so if you join to find peace of mind, you join for the wrong reason. The right reason, or the best reason, is to gain spiritual knowledge that inspires us to serve Krishna, regardless of material circumstances. Peace of mind is subordinate to devotion in Krishna, to Krishna. Peace of mind is subordinate to devotion to Krishna." Wow. I served under Mahendra in Pittsburgh until we were transferred to Philadelphia 3 years later. For some reason, the temple he started was eventually closed, but afterwards, when I walked by that old building, I saw that some of the purple color we had painted on decades before still remained. So it is with our lives. Mahendra Prabhu has now passed on, but I feel that much of the experience and wisdom I gained from him in my formative years at the Pittsburgh temple is still with me. All I can say with a tear in my eye is that I am forever grateful to have once come under Mahendra's auspicious care. Sincerely, Brahmadas, Srila Prabhupada's arrival at ISKCON, Pittsburgh, 1972. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and his sincere followers.
I wanted to read this glorification by Siddhasvarupa. Siddhasvarupananda, sorry. Dear Mahendra, I was sorry to hear that your health is not good. I'm writing to express my deep appreciation for all the efforts you have made in your life to be pleasing His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada, our life and soul. After joining me in taking shelter at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, we never really communicated, but I thought fondly of you often and was grateful for the work that you did. Dear Mahendra Das, I love you very much and pray that you'll always enjoy the peace and happiness that comes with taking shelter of Krishna's holy names and wonderful pastimes. If there is anything that I can do for you to help you in your transcendental endeavor and journey, please let me know. Sincerely, your servant and well-wisher, Siddhasvarupananda. Yeah. Among the ladies, is there someone else who would like to speak? Sesha?
I just went out before to check my emails, and I saw an email from Karandar, and very quickly he said, please offer my condolences to Sukhada and the family. And Mahendra was a gentleman and a scholar. Karandar was a man of few words. And by the way, about a week ago, I called Rameshwar, and I said, Rameshwar, what exactly did Mahendra do? And Rameshwar in his voice said, what are you asking that for? He was the manager of the BBT from 1976 to 1987, or maybe it was 1988. So that was the answer from the big boss.
Okay, I don't want to be anticlimactic here. All right, so I knew Mahendra before from the Siddhasvarupa era. I wasn't really a shiny surfer or anything like that. Who said that? Sarup? Crazy. Anyway, I didn't go. Everyone got separated, and from Hawaii. So Sarup, I remember when he decided that we would all join the ISKCON, and I piped up. What? Okay. I piped up and said, don't send me to New York. And he said, no, there's no New York. And you were talking about Siddhasvarupa. There's only Vaikuntha and Vaikuntha and Vaikuntha. And then I didn't see a lot of people because I went to LA and he went to New York, yeah. And they didn't go everywhere, but there was a chunk, just to straighten out the history. A chunk went to LA, chunk went to the Bay, to San Francisco, a chunk went to New York, and London, a few, Balagopal, and like that. Some few people with draft dodgers, they went to India. So then he was the temple commander. Yeah, I was kind of surprised, and other luminaries of the Siddhasvarupa people, just like Varanasi, she was temple commander too. After him, I think she was Sankirtana leader. Bhavatarini, yeah. So, yeah, Siddhasvarupa people, they kind of held their own in ISKCON. So I didn't see him much, and he was in Pittsburgh, and then LA. It was funny, I remember he was really, I'm not going to say who, but he was, when I was driving over here, somebody was saying, yeah, I never saw him get angry, but yeah, he got angry. He was really angry at somebody. He wasn't yelling or anything. He was like, guys, it was a big, big shot. And Mahendra was sitting in his office saying, guys. He definitely, we don't want to paint the picture that he didn't have opinions, so he had his opinion. What sticks out in my mind, if I have to be straight, is one night in 1985, and I was just yelling at Rameshwar for some reason. I think he might have deserved it. Anyway, I mean, I was really, and Mahendra was standing there, but Radhanath was there. It was kind of a weird meeting, actually, outside in LA. And yeah, Mahendra he didn't say anything. He was just there listening. But, it's interesting because Mahendra was like behind the scenes. He told me recently, within the last year or so, how he knew that the Siddhasvarupa people were that Siddha was planning to, we found out, but he was a kind of insider. He said he knew Siddha before he became the big guru. I think Siddha told me he took 100 caps of acid, and then that's how he became guru or something. But I don't know how much, but something happened there. Anyway, he went away from Hawaii and came back, and wow, he said, my friend Chris is now this big guru, and he never took him as like awe and reverence. He was saying, it was like he was my buddy, and that's all. It wasn't like. There was some awe and reverence, but not like a lot of the people had, because he was just, felt like he was my friend, and so he knew, he kind of was, Siddhasvarupa was intimating it. So he was like an inside guy, and people trusted him, and so I think Siddha trusted him. He had his intimate men like that. So, yeah, I was in BB. I was a brahmachari, totally weird, off I didn't fit in any category of painting in Madame Mohan's porch area, and I didn't really relate to everybody the way. I wasn't a householder with kids, and Madame Mohan had quit being Gurukul teacher. I had a weird, and I used to see people coming in and with their kids, and like on the weekend they'd go away. The kids, it was like very vague to me. I'm sure Tamahar has vivid, detailed memories, but I don't like of that. I'd see people coming in. I would usually always complain, well, why don't they come more often? These kids are wild, they need to do something with these kids. So I always had a little bit of warped idea of, not the standard idea, because I wasn't really a brahmachari going out on the street, but I was on my own, Pani Bhushan's there. And so I would see people in a vague way. And I didn't see Mahendra until maybe at Rath Yatra once or twice. In LA, I came there, and then they moved here, and I was like, wow, that's cool. They moved here, it's great. Now I'm also lamenting that I didn't participate in more things and on my own. Here's Madame Mohan. Yeah. So if you shoot me, maybe I'll say something else. Any questions? I don't have much to say. That much. Maybe somebody get inspired. Jai. Should I pick someone else to speak? Sheshi's going to speak.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for such wonderful remembrances of Mahendra Prabhu. I just have one personal story that I hope adds to the picture of Mahendra Prabhu that's being created here today. In the mid-1980s, I was a new householder transiting between Philadelphia and Los Angeles, where I was going to work for the BBT. And so Mahendra was the BBT at that point in time. Rameshwar had stepped aside, and the whole operation was on Mahendra, so I was supposed to help him. And as I say, I was living in Philadelphia, newly married, so I would fly out to LA every few weeks and spend time getting trained by Mahendra. But I was separated from my family at that time. And Mahendra, he would be spending time with his family up in Three Rivers during the week, sort of splitting his time between the two places. And so he was so perceptive, he could understand that it was a little tough for me being away from my family in the LA community, which is a big community, not knowing anyone. And so he would reach out to me in different ways, beyond just the work of the BBT. He actually invited me to come up with him for a weekend in Three Rivers. So we drove up together, and I shot him at his home. And he took me up to see the giant sequoias. I had never seen anything like that before. But just as a gesture of friendship, we spent some time among those big trees. we had time to talk about different things. And he told me a story that maybe I can confirm from some of you today whether it's how accurate it is. He told me in his surfing days, he was filmed for a television commercial on Frosted Flakes. I don't know how many of you remember, but during the commercial, there's a point where whoever growls, great. And so he was filmed for the commercial saying great, roaring like a tiger. So it's true. So you can add that personal note to all the wonderful things that he means for Srila Prabhupada and his family. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Let me say hello to Vanadev. So we have a tribute by Mahadevi.
Hari Hari Bol, my dear assembled devotees there in New Ramanriti. So you're Brijavasis also. All glories to our divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to all our Vrindavan lords, Krishna Balaram, Radhe Shyam, Nitai Gaur. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to glorify Prabhupada's dear Maharati Mahendra Prabhu. When I think of Mahendra, I think of a strong warrior. And at the same time, although he was such a dedicated disciple to Srila Prabhupada, we gained strength from seeing him, his dedication, but at the same time, his gentleness, his kindness, and his, Prabhupada was just saying this morning in a class, that we have to rise above the dualities of seeing good and bad in Vaishnavas. And so, personally, I didn't know Mahendra so well. I know my dear sister Sukhada a little bit better. But in my wonderful opportunities to see them, be of some service to them, associate with them when they came to Vrindavan, I always felt so happy just seeing them. Just instantly, I would see Mahendra Prabhu and think of Prabhupada. So I was so excited for the Russian devotees and also for many other devotees that might not know this power couple. And so we arranged quite a few talks, katas, Prabhupada katas, over at the Russian house. And so many devotees came, and Mahendra was speaking about his days with the BBT and speaking about the old days with the community of Los Angeles was just so focused on pleasing Srila Prabhupada. Sankirtana was going on, to the maximum. And of course, we also know that Mahendra was famous, for organizing those devotee trips from North America to the Mayapura-Vrindavana Festivals in the 70s as well. And I got to participate in that a little bit. I was on one of those planes. I think it was actually the year before Prabhupada left, 76. Maybe it was the year after. Please forgive my senior moments here. But it was amazing. The whole plane was devotees. Haribol, Haribol. There was even a kirtan up and down the aisle, and prasadam distribution. You know, you went down, hey, Haribol, Prabhu, where are you? How's it going? it was just so amazing. And nothing like that has ever happened since Mahendra organized that. So that's definitely a hallmark in our Vaishnava devotee legacy. And, you know, continuing on with all the festivals that Prabhupada gave us. I remember when Mahendra was speaking at these Prabhupada Kathas, the look on Sukhada Prabhu's face, she was just so happy to see her husband speaking about Prabhupada, and such a natural flow, how Mahendra would speak. He could be very firm as well, just like any Maharati is, but at the same time very gentle and smiling, and making the devotees feel very accepted by Prabhupada, loved by Prabhupada. And when I saw Sukhada looking at her husband, I saw her also looking at her very dear friend and her very dear godbrother. And you can see the success of that kind of mentality, if you will, in a relationship, keeping Prabhupada and Krishna in the center, and each person really truly respecting each other as a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, or, you know, another bona fide guru, but a devotee. This is something that is really propagated by Krishna and Bhagavad Gita. We know, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he or she ever lost to me. We're at 6:30, chapter 6, verse 30. It's one of my favorite verses in Bhagavad Gita. And that reminds me of how practical Mahendra was. Yes, we want to always be mindful of our sadhana, and of course chant our 16 rounds daily minimum, attend the morning program to the best of our ability. But at the same time, we want to have practical, or Prabhupada says, common sense is Krishna consciousness. So Mahendra was also, to me, a wonderful example of that. He just seemed to have what they would say in the world, you know, a steady head on his shoulders. Or as Prabhupada says, cool-headed. Prabhupada would say cool-headed. I remember when I was organizing the cookie marathons there in Los Angeles and arranging for 30 tables a day to go out, we were bringing in so much money for the BBT. And it really became like a family to serve the BBT. And I always felt for Mahendra when he spoke about the BBT that, as we know, Prabhupada said, his heart, the BBT was all about publishing and then distributing and sharing what's in his books. And Prabhupada saying, not only distribute my books, but read from my books. And so I always felt that Mahendra, on a practical basis, was reading Prabhupada's books and applying common sense at the same time. So that means we have to, you know, go deep into reading and hearing Prabhupada's classes, and being able to stay in that mood of Srila Prabhupada, you might say the Sunday love feast mood, where we try to see everyone equally in the eyes of Krishna, in the eyes of Prabhupada. And so when Mahendra was giving those kathas and Sukhada, they just emanated a very loving, respectful feeling. And you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was literally leaning forward to hear what he had to say, because he had such a respectful, kind mood to everyone, and you feel that in a person. So I remember we went to Vrindakund together, of course, to hear Dinabandhu give us the wonderful pastimes of Vrinda Devi and the Gupta Kund there. And Mahendra and Sukhada were just so grateful and looking around and seeing that actually, just see how Prabhupada has made Vraj and Vrindavan famous. We were actually talking about, we were sitting on the side and I was just drinking up their association. And I remember, it's funny how sometimes you remember certain things, but you can't even remember what happened yesterday. And we were talking about how Prabhupada, Mahendra and Sukhada, how Prabhupada raised the standard of literally 5,000 temples here in Vrindavan. If any of you remember the old days when the altars were dark, you could see chuas running back and forth, the deities hadn't been changed in, maybe a week or so. These were the major temples, those 7 major temples. But Mahendra and Sukhada and I were saying how just because of the standard of ISKCON, who, we were formerly known as CIA agents, Prabhupada had such a high standard in the ISKCON Vrindavan temple and all over the world, of course. And then the temple mahants were seeing how this high standard attracts the pilgrims, attracts devotees. And of course, they want to give contribution to increase that standard. So you just see how Srila Prabhupada, how he set the example for how to worship the Lords and also how to be respectful to the devotees. And so I'll wind up here because I know that there must be hundreds and thousands of devotees who want to glorify Mahendra. I mean, you could go on all day, couldn't you? And the demigods are all sitting up there showering flowers on Mahendra Prabhu as we speak about him. And that's what's so very wonderful. The Vaishnava doesn't really die, does he? When we speak about him and we glorify him, then his presence becomes in his devotional example, in his stalwart dedication to Prabhupada. And so those devotees who will miss him very intensely, our dear Sukhada Prabhu and their children and the grandchildren, they can talk about him, they can remember him, maybe on certain days, when he did this or he did that. There can be a little celebration within the family. And of course, ultimately, Prabhupada has told us that the spirit soul, we never heard of that before. Haribol, spirit soul. And so we know that, yes, Mahendra simply changed his form. And now he's with Prabhupada eternally, serving eternally in his new form. And that can give us great solace and great and maybe somehow or another minimize the fear of departing. And knowing that all of our God brothers and God sisters, they're with Prabhupada, he's engaging them very expertly according to their propensity and how they can push on Prabhupada's desires. And so may we follow in the footsteps of such an amazing, wonderful devotee as Mahendra Prabhu. And my love goes to Sukhada. I look forward to you coming to Vrindavan, and we'll go on a Jamuna boat ride. And we'll offer some prayers to Mahendra Prabhu at Jamuna. Hare Krishna, all my dear devotees. Thank you for always inspiring me. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhyeva-cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnave Vaishnave Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Mahendra Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So next we have a Zoom. This is Nirkula. She wants to speak.
Hare Krishna, dear Sukhada, Janaki, Gora.
Hare Krishna. Well, Mahendra and I have been good friends for almost 50 years. Actually, since 1973 or 4 when I thought about it. And my title was the BTG subscription manager when he was the BBT manager. And Mahendra always made sure that I went to India every year with all the guys. I felt like he took good care of me. We were good friends. We had a lot of laughs together. He was great fun to be around. He was a large presence and he had a big zest for life. He loved to travel and would tell intricate stories about wherever he went and his upbringing. He loved to cook and eat and was actually a pretty good cook. He adored his wife Sukhada and all the members of his large family and relished bragging to me about all of them. To his and Sukhada's credit, his kids and their kids are all pretty amazing. He loved to read both alone and in a group and never seemed to get tired of discussing our Krishna conscious philosophy or talking about and relishing remembrances of what we call the good old days in ISKCON. That was always a favorite. He was really a good man, an awesome contemporary, and he will be remembered and missed.
Okay, Niraku.
Hare Krishna, dear Sukhada, Janaki, Gora, Janava, and Nadia, and all the assembled Vaishnavas. Please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I just wanted to say a few words about Mahendra. I started working at the beautiful new BBT warehouse in June of 1977. It was located at 8500 Hagara in Culver City. The large facility housed Srila Prabhupada's books in the warehouse that was 2 stories high, and the BBT mail order department was there. There may have been other departments as well, but those are the 2 that I can remember. Mahendra was the manager of the department that handled making the arrangements for printing and shipping the books from overseas to LA. And once they got there, he was managing taking the temple orders and getting the books out to them. There was a big, beautiful 16-wheeler, I think that's an 18-wheeler, truck with the BBT logo on it. It was always very exciting to see when it pulled in and out of the warehouse. During the time I worked at BBT from 1977 to 1986, our offices eventually moved from that big warehouse over to 3755 Watsika Avenue, and over the years we occupied 3 different apartments there as our offices. I thought Mahendra was great to work with. One thing I really appreciated about him was that he wasn't a micromanager. The first few years that I worked with Mahendra were the most unstable and volatile years of my personal life. We didn't talk about it. I just gave him information on the need-to-know basis, like when I moved in with Mom Mohini. But having the stability of the BBT service and working with Mahendra, who was so easy to work with, was really an anchor in my life at the time. Mahendra had been instrumental in acquiring the property for the Gurukul in 3 Rivers. And I think sometime in the early 80s, Sukhada and the kids, along with other families, moved up there. Mahendra then started commuting between LA and 3 Rivers. He would leave the office sometime on Friday, late morning or early afternoon, to spend time with his family. And he drove a Bronco. I believe it was a Bronco. It was an SUV. Pretty sure it was a Bronco because I remember calling it that. He would drive that up to 3 Rivers, and he had a smaller car that he would allow me to use on the weekends once I learned how to drive. I always thought that was so generous of him, and I really appreciated it. Along with his family responsibilities and his BBT seva, Mahendra was the one who arranged for the charter planes to fly the devotees to the Mayapura-Vrindavana Festivals each year. He was our Sivananda Sena. And in 1978, as a bonus, he included me on the festival trip. It was the first festival trip after Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, and it changed my life. When I didn't have health care insurance and I needed surgery on my feet, Mahendra approved the expense on top of my DM. I remember that after his father passed away, he used his inheritance to do the first printing of Light of the Bhagavad. Sadadari worked as an accountant in the office. He and Sadadari had a funny rasa. They both had German ancestry and were members of Mensa. It was always a great environment to work in. We all did our seva in harmony. Vaish recently reminded me that when my friends' husbands suggested that he and I might be a good match, Vaish went to Mahendra to ask permission for us to associate. And so he must have said yes. Lucky for me. I had forgotten all about that till Vaish reminded me. I don't remember a lot of little instances and things that happened, but I do remember the overall feeling of respect, gratitude, and friendship I feel for Mahendra and, of course, for Sukhada as well. Sukhada, when I saw you at Rath Yatra in LA with your grandson Ryder, you told me Mahendra wasn't doing well, but I had no idea he would be gone in less than 2 weeks. Knowing that you were all together, celebrating your 50th wedding anniversary in July, must be a great comfort to you all, and the memories you created even more precious now. I'm glad that he didn't suffer a long, drawn-out illness before he passed, and I'm grateful to Krishna and Prabhupada for arranging such an auspicious passing. Dear Sukhada, Janaki, Gora, Janava, and Nadia, along with your extended families, I offer my heartfelt condolences and hope that your memories will be a comfort to you for many years to come. I pray that Lord Nrsimhadev protects Mahendra on his journey and all of you always. Sending much love. Wish I could be there with you all. I'm there. My heart is there. Hare Krishna.
Now, Hridayananda Maharaj, can you speak?
Thank you for this opportunity. Basically, I just wanted to say that Mahendra was just always a really good person, a really good devotee. I worked with him in Los Angeles when we brought the Spanish BBT and then the Portuguese BBT to Los Angeles because conditions in Mexico were not really appropriate for various reasons. And Mahendra was just always helpful. And I think at a certain point, he even worked with our Spanish BBT, I think, for a while, but he was just always a very positive person, happy, respectful, very helpful. He really had so many excellent qualities. And of course, we know that service was most important to Prabhupada. So Mahendra did an extraordinary amount of service for Prabhupada that really was foundational in establishing Prabhupada's mission, because as we know, Prabhupada said the BBT was his heart. And so when I think of Mahendra, I only think of kindness, of helpfulness, of just an excellent Vaishnav character. And so when I heard the news that Krishna had taken him, I knew that I had to honor him. I had to just declare, as everyone, as we're all declaring, his many outstanding Vaishnava qualities and what a good friend he was, what a kind person he was, how helpful he was, and how, without question, taking Prabhupada to be the center of his life. So I don't want to go on too long. I don't really have anecdotes, but I just admire and appreciate and am thankful for his excellent character, his kindness, his friendship. He was a true friend to us at a time when we were establishing one of the most important BBT divisions. And when he came to Gainesville, Alachua area, of course, we were very hopeful that he would work with us here, which he expressed interest in. And I only lament that we won't have this opportunity to work with him, but I'm sure that Krishna has some amazing service for him. And as we know, in Krishna consciousness, you only go up. Krishna says there's no loss or diminution. And even a little bit of the service, saves one from any serious danger. And so that's even sualpam api, even very little devotional service, not to speak of someone who's done an enormous amount of devotional service, both in quantity and quality, someone who has a just an extraordinary curriculum. And so I'd like to thank Mahendra, wish him well, and I know that Krishna is doing amazing things for him right now. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm excited to be able to say anything here. I was thinking a lot about it, that I really didn't have an opportunity to really know Mahendra. Even though he came to this community, I got my own life, my own busy things going on. And then about probably, it's been maybe a little over a month and a half ago, my friend Vamanadev here invited me to join a men's group. And Mahendra was a part of that men's group, and so I was like, oh, wow, it was really nice. But at the point when I joined, he was in Los Angeles, and we were meeting at his lovely home, and so I was kind of building up a little excitement to actually get a chance to meet him. And so I was thinking about how important it is. We have such a big community, a worldwide family here, that it's really hard to know everyone here. And so often it's, we don't get a chance, or in my case, I was just kind of neglectful and making more of a connection. So after he passed and everything, I started realizing how I need to pay more attention to all of the nice devotees that are here in this community, and understand what their lives are like and what they're doing, and not be so kind of like, I don't know what to say, kind of lazy or non-caring or something like that. But that's one thing I've learned from his passing, and I was actually able to go for his the cremation ceremony, which was it was amazing seeing his family there and meeting his brother. His brother was there, and it was so fun hearing some of the stories that his brother told of the mischief that they got into when they were young, like saying, I know one story he told about how they were together one time, and they went to this man who had a bunch of old pallets, shipping pallets. And they went to the man and says, well, can we have some of these pallets? And the man said, sure, no problem, And so his brother and he made a raft out of these pallets. And I think he said it didn't work very well, but it was one of their adventures. And but it was really nice. His brother came for that ceremony, and I got to meet his children, and that was at least I get kind of a sense of Mahendra and his personality, and actually for years I I spent, I think from 77 through 85 in Denver, and I didn't really realize it, but those BBT books were coming into Denver all the time. And I didn't really realize that he was the kind of the person behind getting those books out there, you know? It's one unfortunate thing that I didn't realize about him, but we always had that, when I was in Denver, we always had that competition with LA. We were always trying to outdo LA, which was kind of hard. So yeah, so in that way, in retrospect, I heard all of his work at the BBT, so I was the recipient of all his work in bringing those books out to LA. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for letting me share, and Hare Krishna.
Raghava? Okay, so like his namesake, Mahendra was a big personality, but he had a very, very big heart. And he contributed to many temples, many farm projects. And a few years ago, when he moved next to us, I asked him if he had a copy of the Light of the Bhagavat. I had lost my copy, and I wanted the big copy, the big edition. So he gave me one. And so I started to read it. And I started with the preface. You've got to start with the preface in a book. So it tells the story of how Prabhupada was invited to the spiritual conference in Japan in 1961. And so he decided he would take from the Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, the descriptions of autumn, which is 48 verses, which he translated. And that he would send these to the sponsors of the conference, along with the purports, and they would get an artist to illustrate these depictions of nature, because he felt the natural way to preach to the Oriental people was through nature. So he picked these particular verses from the Bhagavatam in 1961. And it's unfortunate the funding didn't come through. He couldn't make it to the conference. So this manuscript was never published while he was with us. But in the 1980s, the BBT decided to publish this manuscript. So they sent it to Hong Kong, the BBT in Hong Kong. And of course, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there, and he assisted them. And they found one of the most famous artists in China. She was an elderly lady, and even her eyesight was starting to go, but she painted and illustrated these 48 plates. And so I just want to read this one paragraph from the preface. The publishers wish to acknowledge their grateful thanks to the family of the late Colonel William Harold Stimple Jr., U.S. Admiral, retired, for the memorial donation which has helped make possible the publication of this volume. That was Mahendra's inheritance. He gave it all away to publish the book. As I asked Sukhada, I just asked her recently, they were poor then, and she didn't even know he had given all the money away. But that's dedication to your spiritual master. That's Mahendra. Thank you.
Mahan Shakti.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada, Haribol. So I'm really happy to be here this afternoon to say a few words about a very old and dear friend, Mahendra Prabhu, who I've known over 40 years. I came a little late today, so I'm sure many of you covered some of the details. If I'm redundant, I apologize. But one of the things that really I reflect upon when I think of Mahendra is he made me feel very safe in Krishna consciousness. His demeanor, the way he presented himself, was like the Rock of Gibraltar. Yet he was understated. He wasn't flashy. He was always like in the back, in a sense. He was the support. He did so much. He was very, very devoted, very devoted. And he made me feel very safe when I was around him. I just felt here was someone that was Krishna conscious, someone that was going to be here. And I felt a tremendous amount of safety and friendship from him as well. One of the pastimes with Mahendra I can think of was when I went to Philadelphia to join there, not to join, but to join that yatra in 1984. I was coming from LA or Phoenix, I forget. And Mahendra picked me up at the airport and drove me to the temple. He was there because he was going to be the temple president. At that time, he was going to become the temple president in Philly. And I was really excited. I was just coming to Philly, and I was really happy to know that he was going to become the temple president. Was it 84 or 74? I think it was, let me think, 74, 1974. And he didn't become the temple president, which was, I was very sorry for, because he would have made a really good temple president. And my second initiation was 72. He was in Pittsburgh. He was either the temple president or vice president. I think Brahmatirtha or Brahma Vidya, I forget his name, was the president. And I think that Mahendra was vice president. So he was in these positions of management. He was very qualified. And I think it must have been stated earlier how he arranged the first 747s to go to India on our big event back in 72, where there were three 747s. He had leased them all out. I mean, he was the one that made all the arrangements. This was our first trip to India, and each of these planes was filled with devotees. I mean, it was such an ordeal, and he arranged it all. Just so competent, so qualified, amazing, absolutely amazing. And over the years, whenever I saw Mahendra Prabhu, I always felt so happy. He just a rock of Gibraltar. Like I said, probably, if not the longest, one of the longest marriages of all ISKCON marriages. And as time went on, I would hear him speak remotely. I didn't see him that often other than Rath Yatra in LA, but I heard him speak, and I realized that he's so intelligent. Mahendra was extremely smart. Again, understated. I would hear and see comments he made on Facebook, and I would just notice how smart he was. Mahendra was a first-class individual, really a first-class soul, and he is just someone I'm really going to miss. When I heard of his passing, I really felt something deep inside. I feel tears in my eyes. I'm really going to miss him.
Hare Krishna. When I came here and they were singing these, the song about the feelings of separation, Narottam Das Thakur's feelings of separation for the departed Vaishnavas. And it struck me because, Narottam Das Thakur he was younger, he was a Nitya Siddha, he was always eager to join Lord Chaitanya's movement. And I don't remember the story very well, but when he finally was old enough to go travel, and Lord Chaitanya had already passed away. And then he went one after another to see these other great associates of Lord Chaitanya, and they'd just passed away, just departed. And so I didn't know Mahendra that well. I met him in the whatever, Three Rivers, Exeter, Visalia area, but Jagrini and I were in the Bay Area and didn't have that much association. We went on with Vaisheshika on a yatra in Mayapur, and I remember sitting with Sukhada and Mahendra in the Mayapur Academy. I remember because my chair fell apart, and feeling like here we are with nice devotees in the holy Dham. But when I've been wanting to retire for a long time, and we always knew Madan Mohan and Vrindavaneshwari were here. So many devotees were here. Manmohini and Raghava moved here, and Bhaktivatsala moved here ahead of us. Bhaktivatsala had lived with us in our house for a long time, and we heard about these, Dhruva Maharaj and Samapriya, and there were these reading groups and classes, and we were very eager to come and participate with Mahendra and Sukhada in these reading groups and classes, and alas, it wasn't meant to be because he's already departed. So I'm feeling some sense of loss that we didn't get to join the reading group in time. But we will miss Mahendra, and our condolences go out to the family. Hare Krishna.
I was given these wonderful quotes by Sukhada. These were found by her in notebooks, many notebooks of Mahendra, of things, knowledge picked up on the path, from Prabhupada's books. So I'd like to read a couple of them. This is a morning walk, February 21st, 1975 in Caracas. Instead of contemplating what will happen to this world, you have got a short duration of life, say 50, 60 years. You chant Hare Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead. Don't consider what will happen to this world. The nature will take care of it. You don't puzzle your brain with these thoughts. You utilize whatever time you have got in your possession, and go back home, back to Godhead. You cannot check it, because people will go on with their rascal civilization. Natural consequences will be there. You better take advantage of whatever time you have got, and become fully Krishna conscious and go back home. And we can actually see that in the life of Mahendra, that when he moved here, it was just like, boom, I'm totally absorbed in Krishna, Krishna's katha, Krishna's service. So he is an example for all of us. Let me read another one. This is a prayer before my morning japa by Vaisheshika Das. Be brave. Look deep within your heart to find your faults and practice forgiving the faults of others. Diligently hear and chant about Krishna, begging him for his help to remove your faults and to empower you to appreciate the good qualities in others. Each victory you win by doing this will be a cause for celebration. Sweet, huh? One more. New Vrindavan, June 7th, 1969. This is a lecture by Prabhupada. Krishna is within you. He is seating within your heart as a friend, not an enemy. Krishna is always your friend. Suridam Sarvabhutanam. You're searching out friends to talk with, to joke with, to love. Krishna is sitting there for that purpose. If you love Krishna, if you make friendship with Krishna, if you love Krishna, then your life will be successful. You haven't got to search out any other friend. The friend is already there. Either you are boy or girl, you will find a nice friend within yourself. That is yoga system, when you realize this friend. So this friend is so nice. As soon as you become a little inclined to hear about him, Shivatam Sa Kataha, about Krishna, not any other nonsense talks, simply about Krishna, then Krishna will be so pleased. Hare Krishna. All glories to Mahendra Das. Thank you all very much. Yes.
Can I say a few words?
Of course.
Hare Krishna. I barely get to know Mahendra Prabhu, but he always came to me like a very gentle soul. One day we were two God brothers talking our health, issues, and he happened to come, and he said, "Oh, I'm about the same age, but I hardly can walk." And I was thinking, I would like to associate with him. But you're thinking, to me, he looks very healthy. So when I heard of his demise, it came like a big surprise for me. Because we were thinking, we are all here for 2-3 years, who knows, So I was thinking, and I got to know Mother Sukhada also. And I was thinking that, it would be so nice to invite them, for prasad at home. But I'm sure that I don't even know the service he did. I'm sure he did a lot of service. But one thing I know, Srila Prabhupada took him in his arms. Hare Krishna, assembled devotees. I don't think a lot of you know me. I just moved here recently. My name is Bhaktivedanta Swami, and I was part of the reading group for the Brihad-Bhagavatamrita. When I first moved here, I know my sister Nirakula told Mama Mohini make sure he's chanting his rounds and keep an eye on him. And she took care of me by introducing me to the reading group for the Brihad-Bhagavatamrita, to which I'm forever grateful. And as my sister said earlier, we're one big extended family, but I took advantage of that recently when I went to the hospital with Sukhada to bring Mahendra there. He was in the emergency room, and the nurse came out to ask us, who are you and why do you belong back there? And she just looked at me and immediately like, I'm his cousin. Because I'm a nurse and I know that they only let immediate family back there, but I didn't know what else to say. And the lady just looked at me like, okay, slow your roll, you'll get in there. And we went back, and every time the doctor came into the room to talk to Sukhada, he'd ask who I was, and Sukhada said, that's my cousin. So I was honored to have been there for the last moments of his life and help advocate for him to be taken very good care of at the hospital. I hope I was successful. I also was asked by your god sister, Her Grace Srila Rupa, to read an offering that she made for today. Srila Rupa was also a member of the Bhaktivedanta group that we had. She said, very dear, kind-hearted, very dear, kind-hearted Mahendra Prabhu, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you and your onward and glorious journey. Your sudden departure shocked and deeply saddened many of us. The good part was it was quick for you. The bad part was that it was too quick for us. You're one of Prabhupada's early soldiers and dear disciples. I know wherever you are now is where Prabhupada is. You're one of the lucky ones. We all are still here being tested, standing in the checkout line, praying also for that glorious departure. I did not get a chance to tell you but how much I enjoyed our readings and discussions at your house in our reading group. Please know that you were an inspiration to me and touched my heart by your sincerity, your kindness, and service to the devotees of Prabhupada. Thank you for your warm and devotional heart and sharing that with all of us. You will be dearly missed and very much remembered. Journey well, dear one. With gratitude, your humble servant, Srila Rupa Devi Dasi.
Srila Brahmamuhurta Prabhu is going to be speaking on a Zoom call. Brahmamuhurta.
I'm really sorry I could not be there today. I was planning to be there. I have this terrible memorial service karma. My uncle, just a couple months ago, was down on 39th Avenue at the nursing home, and I went to visit him, and he passed that night. And then afterwards, they said when they were going to schedule the memorial service, it was exactly the same time as I had to be in LA for a really important mediation, and there was nothing I could do about it. In the situation here, I was over there to see Mahendra the night he passed, and sure enough, another memorial service when I had to go to LA to take care of some legal business there in the Ninth Circuit. I am one of the few people that knew Mahendra before the India trips. I met Mahendra, I think, in 1972. Is this okay? Okay, because I can't see anything. I met him in 1972, I'm sure, during the Prabhupada's famous visit to New Vrindavan for his Vyasa Puja and Janmashtami festival. And that's when I first met him. When they came for the road show, when they came to Pittsburgh for the road show, I'm pretty sure I might have known him a little bit before that, but possibly not. And just as an aside, one day I was up on the third floor of the Pittsburgh temple that they had at that time, a beautiful temple in the best part of town. And Prabhupada was in a room being interviewed by some reporters, and there were no devotees in the room. And I thought to myself, well, there's some devotees should go in there just so they know Prabhupada has some followers. And I went in and sat down, and then one of the reporters asked Prabhupada, do you really think this religion can spread all over the world or take over the world? And Prabhupada, without missing a beat, just looked at them and said, yes, they will only listen to me. And so then afterwards, a little while later, I should point out one little anecdote. My son was talking to a friend of his, and this friend of his said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your father passing. My son, Parma, looked at him with a very quizzical look. He said, my father's still alive. He said, what? He said, yeah, my father's Amarendra, not Mahendra. And he's still alive at this point anyway. So in 72, I met Mahendra, and then I was in New Vrindavan in 73 or so forth. And I had to spend a lot of time in Pittsburgh, and Mahendra just took me around. We drove around the city. He showed me all the art galleries and things of that sort, because Mahendra was a very cultured person. And I'm sure it's been mentioned, he was a Mensa, which means, his IQ was over a certain amount. But we became very good friends at that time. And later on, when came back down here to Florida. Mahendra went out to LA around that time, or sometime shortly after, to become secretary of the BBT. Then in '82, when I moved out there, he was still there, and immediately came to me and just wanted to help me in any way he could. The first place he took me was a place called Kosher Nostra, and that was a meatless pizza place in the Orthodox Jewish part of Los Angeles. And Mahendra loved that place. So that was the first place he took us. And a lot of devotees used to go there in those days. And the second place he took me was Malibu Beach, which, everybody had heard about. He lent me his surfboard because in high school, I had been somewhat of a surfer. So I went out, and in 2 minutes, I was blue. The Pacific Ocean was freezing me to death. And I said, this is the last time. I guess my surfing career is over. But over the years, Mahendra was just such a good friend, especially in those years when we were all, trying to open up Sankirtan spots and get the books out and push the movement as hard as we could. And we just stayed friends for many, many years. And he was like one of these guys that even if you hadn't seen him in a long time and you ran into him, he would make you feel like it was just 5 minutes ago that he saw you. And there's not much more I can say. I could say a lot, obviously, but but there's a lot of people there. But I can tell you this, that Mahendra was always one of my heroes. He was I never heard him say a bad word about anyone, notwithstanding Pushkar's stories to the side. I don't know what he heard, but Mahendra I never heard him say a bad word or something critical of any other devotee. He was always very supportive, always very friendly, always very warm and kind. And that kind of a devotee does not come along very often. Those devotees are so rare that I could probably, I don't want to get in trouble. So anyway, he was one of those rare devotees that just was so nice and friendly to everybody. Everybody liked him. And I'm going to definitely miss him. I don't know why. I do know why, but when I moved to Alachua a few years ago, I kind of like off the grid. I had my paid my dues in ISKCON, so to speak, and I was just trying to hide from everybody and just get my life together after the Robin George case and the Turley case and the New York airport case. I was just so burned out. But Mahendra is one of these people that, made you feel so good and comfort you and make you feel like, yeah, you're doing the right thing. Don't worry about it. It'll get better. Krishna's in control. We're all doing this to serve Srila Prabhupada. And he would make me feel better because it was tough. It was a tough period of time in the movement during those years. And I've known a lot of devotees over the years, especially in the 70s, being here in Gainesville. I probably knew every Sankirtan devotee in the movement on every traveling party from every single temple in the world that would go out of their way to come to Florida in the wintertime. I used to think they were coming to get out of the cold weather, but later on I figured it out. They're all coming for Gayatri's Prashadam and Goranga potatoes. But Mahendra was a big part of that Sankirtan era, the heyday, the glory days of ISKCON, when the books were just flying out left and right. Everybody was just on fire, and there was no impediment to Krishna consciousness at all. And those, with Prabhupada on the planet, and everybody so enthusiastic and so happy to serve Srila Prabhupada. The real challenge has been to serve Srila Prabhupada, continue serving Srila Prabhupada, following his departure. It's been so long now, but Mahendra was always one of those people you could go to, you could talk to. He would comfort you. He would make you feel better. And if that's not a devotee, if that's not a great exalted devotee, then I'm in the wrong movement. I'm going to go back to the synagogue or the church or something. But he was the real deal, and he was genuine, and he was so many qualities of a great devotee. And it's those kind of devotees that, and all devotees that we're going to miss very, very sorely as we continue to venture down this path of birth, death, disease, and old age. That's about all I know anymore at this stage of the game. Death is on the doorstep. And I'm so glad I got to see Mahendra that night in the hospital, because he looked very peaceful. He did not look to me like he was suffering or fearful in any way, shape, or form. He was just Mahendra, and he was peaceful, and people were talking, and he was just laying there in bed. And I've seen, as we all have some people at the end of life, and I don't like to see them because at that point, because their bodies shrivel away. It is a material body, and these dark circles and sunken eyes, and it's just I'm not ready for that quite yet. But Mahendra was very peaceful, and I take that as a sign from Krishna and Prabhupada that they were taking care of him, even at that point, preparing his path back to Godhead. And I will miss him. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
I had gone to other memorials and other temples, and they had music playing like Somewhere Over the Rainbow and It's a Beautiful World. And so I put this kind of to music, but not exactly. I won't sing it. But the flesh is not our own, alas, the mortal frame a chain. A soul's confined for former wrongs should try to rise again. Why such child's play in that which cannot ever be our own, which falls within 100 years, as if a rose alone. A voice so deep within, a voice so deep and soft within, inside ourselves is felt. Man, man, you are immortal souls, thou death can never melt. Our sire on high has always kept a store of bliss above. To end of time we're owned by him who wants but purest love. O love, thy power and spell divine, now melt this soul to God. No earthly words can e'er describe this feeling soft and broad. My friends no more enjoy nor weep for all of them below. Bad women, wine, and flesh of beasts, no love on them bestow. Tell me not in cold reasoning, the soul is made alone by earth's mechanic lifeless rules, and to destruction prone. Our God who gave us life, alone the self can kill, or give it endless, boundless joys, his promise to fulfill. So souls push onward, march against an evil deed. Fight soldiers, hate and lust and greed, a hero be indeed. Maintain thy spirit's post so firm, you do not ever bend. Let never matter push you down, O stand heroic friend. O Sharagrahi Vaishnav soul, thou art an angel fair. Please lead Mahendra to Vrindavan, and spirit's power declare. Lord Krishna, source of everyone, your mercy we beseech. Please help this devoted soul take shelter at your beauteous lotus feet.
Thank all of you for coming today.
One more here.
One more?
I spoke with my ad, a little short something.
Sure.
Thank you for giving me another chance to have a little bit more clarity of emotions when I speak. It's not lost on me that I'm probably going to repeat things that are the same mood that has been shared, but I feel like the potency of his character and his presence can't be reiterated enough, because as we spend time in memory, maybe we also get closer to those qualities that he possessed. And so I want to share. It was beautiful to hear many sharings from when, the old days. And I just wanted to share that I've actually only known him a few years, and yet what stood out that was so powerful and potent was the personalism in his way of life. That sometimes we interact with devotees and they have the philosophy in their minds, and maybe there's this duality between like what is material and what is spiritual. And Mahendra was able to walk in this world in a way that was so spiritual, because he had the qualities of love, of care, of genuineness, and personalism, and at the same time, it was attention to detail. And arguably, I think a lot of times as devotees, we can gloss over the details of the lives of others because it's not in our life, or it's maybe material, or oh, they're having this problem, or they think this, and I think that was something that was also so powerful in his attributes, was that he didn't gloss over small, what I would say, I'm talking about my own life, a small detail that, and I'll give one little anecdote to narrate that, is that, there's many anecdotes I want to share from the moment, I met him, but the one anecdote that showed personalism, my husband and I have been living between Orlando and Alachua for 2.5 years for the funds to build a home that is like a temple, is like somewhat of a sangha, a house we can have a sangha where people can come and do kirtan and facilitate a large number of devotees. And just knowing this, he didn't even know me that, I feel like it was very early on. He didn't even know me that long at that point. And he brought me to Nalini Kanta and Ratneshwaris, I don't know them obviously very well, Prabhu's houses. And that, for me, I was kind of stunned. I remember kind of being in awe that he just heard a little thing I said, or a little comment about, yeah, I'm designing our house, we're having it built, I'm trying to figure out how to do the living room and the temple room and make it so that everyone can see if there's a program. And he heard that tiny little thing, and he made an appointment with them, and he called me, and he found a time, and then he drove me there and to show me their home, because it's the temple. And so that was one small anecdote of the many personal things that he did. And another was when I was having some challenges with a teacher, a teacher of my son, who I love dearly and who's a dear devotee. But Mother Sukhada and Mahendra Prabhu have their feet so firmly planted on this material soil, in a sense of the details matter, that I knew he would be able to give spiritual, accurate advice, and that's exactly what I got when I went to their home and I confided my issue or my conflict, and he spoke with just such clarity and such shastric understanding, in a way that wasn't at all denigrating to any party. It wasn't about, who's right or who's wrong. It was just what is right, and with such clarity. So I just wanted to share that I pray that more of us, in memory of Mahendra Prabhu, foster those qualities in our own lives of really caring about what's going on, even if it seems material, in other people's lives. Mahendra Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. I guess all of Srila Prabhupada's devotees are the result of Srila Prabhupada's love to us, and then they in turn give the love to the other devotees. So I'm not sure if it was 1971 end, but I think it was. That's where I met Mahendra in Pittsburgh. And it was a very tiny temple, and I don't even know how many people were there, maybe 5 of us. And then Bibhu and his wife were the president, but we never saw them, we never related to them, nothing. So mostly it was Mahendra. He told us what to do, he told us how to pack spiritual sky incense, he went with us to the stores to try to sell it, because those were the days of spiritual sky oils and incense. And that's how we got a little bit of Lakshmi for the temple. I was in charge of the altar, and I came to the temple not really knowing anything. I had got a book, and I read some of it, and then I read Bhagavad Gita, the purpley blue version, but I really didn't understand very much. And our altar had a picture of Prabhupada on it, and I was like, this can't be. So we have to add some deities. So we got a picture of Panchatattva and put jewels around the frame and put him on the altar. And then at that point, very soon, Srila Prabhupada was coming to Pittsburgh. So we had to learn how to go to the flower market and how to beg for flowers, which is of course what we did. We first begged before we'd pay for anything. We would ask, do you have any extras? And go vendor after vendor after vendor. So Mahendra was the one who took me out to teach me how to gather what we needed. And in those days, being only a few of us, Krishna book just came out, and the idea was you go out on Sankirtana, and for some reason we were selling incense all day long, so we had to go out selling Krishna book at night. So Mahendra set us up like you just didn't go send the ladies out in Pittsburgh neighborhoods. So he sent a brahmachari with you, and you went, knocked on the door, told people about Krishna book, and like that. And so, even though at that time he was not the president, I never saw the president. So to me, he was the president, and he was the big brother, and he taught us and took care of everything in the temple. And he was kind, and I didn't understand that someday I would be in a temple that women might be treated differently. I didn't understand that after meeting Mahendra, but then I learned it. But he was equiposed and kind and very nice person. And later we lived in Los Angeles together, and I got to know his wife a little better, and my daughter and Janaki became friends, and they did a lot of things together. But, you know, in those days too, we were all busy, like raising children and sewing for the deities, or cooking and raising your children, you know, cooking for the deities. And so we were very busy. We didn't do a lot of social life in those days, but I was always I guess I always sent my love to that family. And I don't want to disappoint you, but one thing that Mahendra and I thought up when we were in Pittsburgh was that our Tulsi had mealybugs. So my husband said, don't say it, don't say it. But I'm going to say it, because we were just simple people. And we read what could get rid of mealybugs, and we found out that smoke could. So we went down in the basement and we got a cigarette, and we lit the cigarette and offered the smoke to Tulsi Devi. And I can't even remember if she got better or not, but I don't feel traumatized by it, so I'm thinking she may have gotten better. But just simple devotees we were in those days, and we loved Prabhupada so much, and Mahendra definitely was a forerunner. Thank you.
I didn't have much association with Mahendra, but I remember in 1975 he was in charge of all the festival fees in Mayapura-Vrindavana, Hyderabad. And I didn't pay my festival fees. I didn't know about that. And so he let me slide on the festival fees if I went to Hong Kong and punched the Vita. So I went for 1 month to Hong Kong. And I remember once he gave a Bhagavatam class in LA, and he was saying that the higher taste was so successful that we should really push that. And he improved it, put better recipes in it, and
Mahendra and I were driving to the temple one day, and we saw you on the road. And yes, coming here to the temple. We saw him on the road. And I said, I see that devotee a lot at the temple, but I don't really know him. And Mahendra said, oh, he is a great devotee. He's a great devotee. He distributes lots of Srila Prabhupada's books. So I've always wanted to tell you that he thought so highly of you.
I think we have to stop here because we've only got 14 minutes till their lordships receive their arti. Thank you all so much. Mahendra ki jai.